Okay, so let's hope this is all rolling well. But yeah, let's go over this VOD that I've been tasked to do so. Let me just skip to where the gameplay is and get straight in.
We need a mercy.
Alright, so seems like you're setting up in a good enough position to start with. I'm assuming you're getting ready to drop down onto like the payload and try and get a pick on this end.
That's fine.
Yep. Testing.
Winston's discorded.
I think that they have a widow. Okay.
Where's the widow?
She's in the tower on the right.
Zen alone,
This is
Zen
good.
alone,
You
Zen,
monkey
Zen,
have good
Zen, Zen,
coordination.
Zen.
This is really good. You monkey are straight on a target, and he gets picked off. That's great. Now, straight away though, look at let's just do this. The monkey in return has got 2 picks as well. So at this point, you really need to either go back and help your back. Well, this is not Tracer, it's just in general. Actually, I'm thinking of, but you're gonna want to either go back and I suppose help the back line, especially with tanks here. But what am I doing? I'm supposed to be focusing on the Tracer gameplay here, so let's do that.
I'm done.
That was a good call to engage with your monkey on the Zen there, because you got a pick out of it. Another good thing, good awareness of health packs, and your monkey seems to be doing good work.
Monkey's all the way in her spawn.
You should get demonked here.
Do you need help?
Dead.
She does. Right, your monkey's going pretty deep. You went way too deep there. You should get punished. Yep, okay. So, if we go back to say here, so I have a sightline. Right. So, right here. Okay, right. So, I'd say the deepest you really want to go right now is probably this line here. You don't want to go up onto this high ground because Widow and Zen are both coming out of spawn. It tends to not be the best of ideas to like go up to the spawn doors. And you also went into an outnumbered here while your Winston's. You should probably have followed your Winston here. So in terms of just general tips, just try and stick to your Winston a lot more, because if you're way more powerful combining together than you are alone. Like, while Tracer's job is to be in the back lines and disrupt and try and get picks and stuff, when you're alone, like when you have a Winston in the field, it's much easier to just stay with your Winston, and you'll also probably get a lot more value out of it. Both out of the Winston and out of the Tracer, because I tend to find that Tracer's very good at cleaning up the damage that Winston puts down with Leap and his Tesla cannon. Whereas here, you're engaging on 2 targets alone, so that tends to be... I don't need to tell you that 2v1s are a bad thing here, I hope. But yeah, you were punished for it, so I assume that you did learn that that was maybe not the best of choices. So you're dead now, so
Tracer discorded. Tracer's still
you
discorded.
seem to get out alright though. So right, so your monkey's dead now. You should probably not go back in yet, especially when the Widow's on that high ground. You should be dropping down behind.
They're diving.
Alright, so you seem to be putting a lot of value on this Widow here. Let me turn down this actually, because it's quite the big brush. Alright, there we go. Too small. So basically, you're probably going to want to be down here on, because I believe the Zenyatta and the Mercy are probably down there. They are your 2 primary targets to support, because you want to take their attention away from their tanks as much as possible. That's, aside from getting pickoffs and finishing off damage, that is your primary job as Tracer, to try and at least disrupt the supports. Instead of going down there, you're seeming to focus on this Widow a lot more, so let's see where this goes.
Me?
Yeah, and also you're trying to engage on a Widowmaker who has high ground advantage on you, and that's not going to go well, because you can't really put a lot of damage on her up there. She has peak advantage and high ground advantage here, so you probably should just give up and try and engage on a different target. Because of Tracer's lack of vertical mobility, you're not really going to get a lot of value there. So yeah, just try and focus on targets that are on even ground to you. It tends to... Well, you'll see a difference immediately if you start doing this. just simply from the fact that you'll find it a lot easier to find targets and put down more damage on them, because I believe you're gonna keep engaging him. Yeah, and see how
Group up, guys, group up.
her damage is a lot higher than yours, and straight after your recall, she's gonna find you here, I believe.
Tracer one.
Yeah, I remember. Great. Okay, right. So, when you're on the cart as well, you don't just want to stand still. You want to try and not necessarily like you don't need to drastically move, but even just crouch AD on the spot. That can be really, really good. Really good thing because it prevents this from happening. And that widow is, but also with this just another thing. This composition. I would definitely recommend keeping your diva on that widow rather than trying to contest point with her, just because the widow doesn't really have much pressure, and Rum is being pressured out by their tanks, I believe, at this point. But that's a completely different thing, and I'm just getting sidetracked.
Fall back.
Yeah, that's a good call to fall back.
Shuttle, high ground.
I'm gonna go on the aircraft.
I would personally say that already, Tracer and the this is just a side tip, but in this second point, and to be honest, on first point, Tracer would not have got that much value in those points just because it's so high ground oriented, and Tracer doesn't have that big of range. But if you like swapped out a Tracer for say a soldier, just because the soldier can kind of at least contest that widow a lot better. I know you're quite comfortable on soldier here, Temp. So if you were to swap, maybe on defense actually, almost the entire point. Third point Tracer is very good, but first and second on defense, Tracer struggles a lot, just because of how high ground oriented it is. So Genji works better. Soldier would work a lot better as well. And I believe you're in soldier on attack here, which is the right call, I would say. If you play it right, it's the right call. But yeah, just try and think about like what does your hero have at what value does your hero bring to the team in terms of like controlling of position, controlling of high grounds and such. And you'll start to see a change almost immediately if you start to just subconsciously think of that. And see now the widow is pretty much uncontested here because you're on the low ground. So what you want to be playing here is you actually probably don't want to drop down there. You wanna play on as if your primary job, if you're playing the widow contesting Tracer here, which I think you are, considering there's not much else happening to their widow. You're gonna want to play around this area here, and just this level in general, just so you can really contest her, because she's at the minute she's uncontested. And the second you drop down, you have no way of getting back up to her, really. Without taking a very predictable sightline, whereas from here you can either blink from there across. Yeah, if you visualize the map, you'll get what I mean. In fact, I know what I'll do. I'll bring Stat Banana. Stat Banana. Right, okay, so, you're on this high ground here, so let's just put a Tracer here, and let's put the enemy widow here. Right. If you drop down, then you this entire white outlined area is completely inaccessible to you. And if you basically go in this area here, oh god, you're dead, because anything here just is in the widow's sightline. Give or take, there's this bridge in the way that can block it off, but in the end, yeah, it's difficult to play like that. Whereas if you go through here, there are literally two ways you can attack the widow. You can go there, or you can go there, straight in the sightlines or around. Either way, you're putting pressure. That's enough. If you pressure her, then Rum should be able to at least get a few shots off before the widow manages to like maneuver away. Or even forcing a grapple hook is great because your tanks can engage. But yeah, just try and when you're playing Tracer, try and maybe stick to equal level areas, or equal height areas, should I say? So you can contest the widow, you can contest can you basically just have more access to the map from a higher ground. And if you can get on the shuttle, even better, because then you can freely move back and forth from the map. But yeah, either way, that's just a little thing to keep in mind. Just keep in mind how what's the word? How accessible the map is to your current position and to the position you're moving to. So you should never really move to a position that you're going to have a positional disadvantage in, is what I'm trying to say. Which is what that drop down was. But other than that, it's...
Diva, Winston below you. They're all in like in the aircraft.
Yeah, that's just something to keep in mind for you. So you run past the Zenyatta there. Yeah, that was... I don't know what was going on there.
In the aircraft.
Guys, we need a target. I suggest we get the Widow.
Okay, so... Straight away, yes, I had the pause here, so I can't fully talk for this, but straight away there's 2 targets there and a Widow up there, I believe, still. Or maybe she's over here somewhere now. But if we go back a few frames, you see a Winston bubble appear. Let's just get rid of those. And you see a Winston bubble appear. Also, your Zen is right there. So what you should be doing, and I'm aware your microphone wasn't working, so I don't know if you would have normally done this, but had you have maybe dropped back or taken the staircase that's to your left here, and tried to contest that Winston, you probably could have... I don't know if your Zen does that in this fight, actually. That's an interesting thing I'll keep an eye out for. But there's a Winston here, you can tell because of the bubble and Tesla cannon, and he has a free jump onto the Zen, which the Widow is also firing on, so the Widow can call out that the Zen's low. And I'm assuming that he's going to die at some point in this fight. But yeah, in terms of these two that you run past,
We need a target.
I kind of understand what you were doing. You're trying to regain the high ground, but yeah, you shouldn't. If you at least clocked that there was somebody there, I know you may have just seen the Zenyatta, but the second you go past them, that's it. You should stop. You shouldn't go back. Just simply, or even, I feel like I'm flaming, but I'm not here. I'm trying not to anyway. I don't intend to. So right here, you see there's 2 of them. You shouldn't. Basically, again, it comes back to the 2v1 thing, where without your tanks, your Mercy's just died up here with your Winston. Your Winston has used his cooldown, so he can't actually engage on anybody with you here. So really, your best option in a situation like this is to try and regain that positional advantage rather than trying to just engage on somebody, especially after you're 2 down, I believe, at this point. Your Widow got picked off as well. So once that second player goes down, you should try and either get out or just gain a positional advantage for the next fight, because you're not really going to get a good engage when there's 4 of you against 6. I understand. I don't know if you were going for maybe a stick on the Zen or something, but obviously you didn't end up getting that, and the Tracer absolutely crushes you. At this point, this should be a complete reset. This is a more team-based thing, but this should be a complete reset.
Guys, we need to call down positions.
You should regroup.
Zen 1.
Okay. So just a tip. Although Pulse Bomb is disposable, in this kind of situation where you're kind of just stalling the cart, you know, you're not gonna get a clean engage, especially when people are dying as you're getting in. You have 2 options that are viable. You can either just get out and leave it, and maybe try and regroup for a final contest, or you can go in, contest it, try and get a pick without using any ults. Because what you did in the end was you so basically, in this situation, before you blink, you should think, so you have Pulse Bomb. I'll give you a few things that you can think about with Pulse Bomb as well. There are like 2 or 3 things that you really want to let me pull up my drawing tablet actually, so I can efficiently draw and stuff. So I can actually write stuff rather than just draw circles. So come on, you can do it. But yeah, there's a few things you wanna think about. It's not working. It's great. Whatever. So, come on, tablet, you can do it. The things you want to think about are, can you? There we go. Okay, so, can you draw out like an alt? An alt. Can you get a pick? Or can you put down enough damage that leads to a pick? Any of these three things are worth using a pulse bomb for. Use that. But anything else, I wouldn't recommend using it just because it's not very not exactly worth it really. Just simply from the fact that yeah. So let me see what you're actually looking at when you decide to throw the pulse through there. Alright, so you see what you see is okay. So I'm guessing D.Va used Matrix. You were aware of that. Wisden's discorded, and Zen is here. He does have trance actually, but you may not know that. So I'm assuming you're thinking you get a pick here. The next thing that I would recommend thinking about after you've decided if you can get one of those three things, or you can get value out of your pulse bomb, the next thing you want to look at is your team. Oh god. And just will your team get value out of this? Because you could get a 3k with your pulse bomb, but if you're the only one alive, you won't really get any value out of it. So you also want to look at your team, and just in general, like that, you want to see that you can get value out of it, and that your team can capitalize on that value. Yeah. So I can see what you're trying to do with this pulse bomb. You were trying to go for a pick, but in the end, that pick wouldn't really have been of value to your team because you would have only been evening up a fight, trading a support. Although it was Transcendence. Transcendence would have been a big pick, especially if you could draw it out. But it would have been at cost of 3 ultimates of your own, i.e. Pulse Bomb, Sight, not really related to be honest, and Transcendence of your own. But yeah, just those are some things to keep in mind with Pulse Bomb. So it's can you draw out an ult, like a trance or a sound barrier, damage, and a pick, and damage leads to a pick, I mean. And then also, you want to make it so the fight, yeah, you're at least 1 up after using it, or you're equal with a support ultimate advantage, or just some form of advantage in the fight. Otherwise, I would say it isn't really worth using a pulse bomb in that situation. But I'll see how your pulse bomb usage changes across the series as well, because it's a very niche part of Tracer that I think distinguishes the competent tracers from the top tier tracers. You don't die, so that's a big thing. Rum gets the Zen in the end anyway, so. See, that's actually, if that goes down, he doesn't. Damage that leading. Right, so. In the end, if you watch this, Tracer sticks the Winston, gets him 1, and forces, because of that, he forces Primal. So if, that's the kind of value you want to look for. Because that's now 1 less ult that you have for contesting. Anyway, let's get back to this. I've been going this for long. That's good. You get a D.Va. Interesting recall there.
Monkey one, nice.
Okay, so again, I'll give you a tip on recall as well. So in this situation, you're going to escape, right? So In this room around here, there is a health pack. As far as I'm aware, there's nobody behind you, so you're not in too much danger here. If you can get that health pack, you're fine, and you'll still have this recall online. This pen is pissing me off. But yeah, if you again, it's the same kind of thing. Things you want to think about are, is healing in range? So is there a support nearby, or is there a health pack you can reach? Are you going to take 150 damage in the next second? That's something you want to always be keeping track of in the back of your mind. It's not something you want to consciously think about, but if you can like start to instinctively think about it in the back of your mind, and think, am I going to take full damage in the next 6 seconds or so after I use this recall? What is the cooldown for recall, actually? That's a bad thing, I should really know. But yeah, if you... Okay, actually, a baby diva was shooting at you, so was a widow. Alright. My entire point is invalid.
Mercy, 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 mercy.
Alright, so you win the fight in the end. It's good. It's a good job that you invested the 4 ults and didn't lose the fight. You're already building a fairly quick pulse bomb back, so it's not too bad. But it's better getting good habits. I think that that tracking is just nothing that a bit of aim drills can't fix either. It's a very niche thing, mechanics and aiming. Alright, disengage. Disengage here. I don't know how the hell you get away with it. I would be fuming if those were my tanks, personally. So what you do is you see in a few frames here, you see that there's a Winston and a Diva here. The Winston, what did I just do? The Winston engages on you, fine. But you see that the Diva is also behind him as well. You don't know what's on the other side of this wall, but both tanks are there. You do know that. So really, I would just back out there. You end up getting value out of it. Oh god. You do end up getting value out of it. I believe you do pick up the Widow, but right here, you should be back because you see there's a Diva here as well, and the Widow, and there's a monkey. As far as you know, because you haven't looked back yet, there is a monkey behind you, and also 2 of your team are dead. You're not gonna win this fight. It's a support, and it's your counter to the Widow. Which means that your best hope would be to get a pick that won't be capitalized on. And we talked about your team getting value out of your picks earlier, which you want to at least, when you're getting picks, whether it be to equalize a fight or to go up in a fight, you never want to be getting picks into a fight that's down because you're not going to get value out of them. So again, it's just finding value out of this kind of stuff, and knowing how whether or not you will get value. You do engage on this Widow here again. Just think about if you need to recall that. I personally don't think you do. There's not. The reason I don't think so is there's no real threat. There's a Mercy Beam here. That's the only thing that's really in sight that could indicate any form of threat coming from outside of your field of view. Widow is facing the opposite direction. And you have a tank with you as well. In the end, the recall would have been useful around now as well, so the Widow kills you anyway, but you shouldn't have invested ults, it's not winnable at all. Yeah, okay, so just think that there's not, that fight was lost either way, but just think about your recall usage, and if it's really necessary to recall that. That's all I would really think about in that situation, because you know, you weren't really in any danger. Good at touch, don't use pulse, okay, use pulse. Again, just think about what I said earlier about finding value in pulse bombs, and if your team will also find value with that. So now you should, yep, you're going to retreat, okay, good. Alright, your Mercy was alone there, that was... Your team should immediately be retreating to, like, nearer to your spawn.
Yeah, because when
And you as well should be.
We're
You shouldn't be here.
today.
Okay, so after you lose a point, and I see a lot of teams do this, it's not just you. You don't want to be where you currently are. You don't want to be behind the payload because you're defending. You need to be stopping the payload. All you're doing, right now, you're not really giving them any issues. You got the pick on the monkey, great, but where that's 2 versus 1, the cart is being pushed, and also that is a
What are you
wow.
doing there?
And exactly, whoever called that, I'm not as experienced with the team as I should be, so I can't exactly recognize voices. But whoever calls, what are you doing there? They're kind of right. Getting the pick is all good, but you really should be back with your team by this point, especially like you're almost halfway through point B, point C, sorry. So you should really be back at the payload at least. But yeah, again, just try and consider like how long should I spend at the doorway to the point, and while you should be in the back line, you should also not be. You shouldn't be like overextending to the point where you were behind the payload. You want to be behind the team, but not that far behind the payload, is what I'm trying to say. It's taking me a long time to say it, though, so my bad. Yep, in the fight. Okay, so right, so you should wait for your monkey to engage, which you do, I believe.
Zen low, Zen low, Zen low, Zen low, Zen low.
Nice. You went on a good flank. That was a good flank. You went the right way. Because I've seen a lot of people who, in this situation here, with the information that these supports are kind of going to be here in a minute, would just wait at this corner. But no, you made a right call. You made a right call and you went all the way around, and it ended up working out very well. You got a pick on the Zen at the start of the fight, which is probably the best pick you can get because he's right. If you look at his ult charge, he's right next to Transcendence as well. So that's a very big pick. So nice job. Very good job there.
I'm gonna trans here.
Okay, trans just to make sure. Mercy has to die here. Nice, Mercy's dead. Okay. Maybe a bit of better tracking, but hey ho, that comes with time played and practice.
Nice, diva, 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 diva. Mini diva.
Monkey behind.
Kill the monkey.
Also, just a little tip for Rum here. I'll probably just message her later. Just don't be afraid to call out that someone's on you a little earlier, because I know you feel like you can win them as a Widow player myself. I know you feel like you can take him out, but there's no shame in calling for help for against a tank. Like just to keep in mind, just maybe call out a bit sooner so you can be saved. And in that situation, although it's right in spawn, the monkey's gonna be punished. Yeah, just don't be afraid to call out. Really, like the team wants to keep you alive because you're kind of killing shit.
Staggering, staggering, staggering. Oh,
Alright, you jumped off. Yeah, okay. Okay, that was. Wow. Wait, that
staggering, staggering, staggering.
skunk. I'm not reviewing you, but that was. That's a thinking face.
Okay, fall back, fall
Alright,
back.
so right now you shouldn't really be going in. You should just peek around. I'm hoping you just peek around and kind of scout.
Don't poke.
Give me heals. Heal me.
They have sights now, so.
What do I say?
Just don't really ever peek corners when Widow has sights. Maybe blink around and stuff, but don't walk around a corner because the Widow will pre-aim it, and it's the easiest headshot of your life if someone just walks around a corner while you all have sights. You learned that the hard way.
Winston 1, Winston 1, Winston 1, Winston 1.
Oh,
Winston 1.
I remember seeing that when I watched this back last night. Alright, so
Any deals? I can dive the widow.
Messi, Messi, Messi,
okay,
Messi, Messi,
again,
Messi,
this is scam which can be capitalized on. It looks like she will in the end. I hope. Yeah. Okay. So you used it. You got an ultimate out of it. You didn't get a kill, but you got an ultimate. You're still focusing the tanks. I'd like to see you focus supports a bit more as well. Right, nice. You got a pick on the Winston. Pre-aiming it. Okay. You need to win this. Alright, now D-was in here. You need to get out. Nice. Okay. So, that I engage. I don't know where the supports were actually. Let me have a look. Where were they? What's the supports? Right, the supports are still alive.
Any deals? I can dive the widow.
Messi, Messi, Messi,
Yeah,
Messi,
so
Messi 1, Messi 1.
could have used that for a different thing. Their Mercy's dead at this point. Their Zen's still alive somewhere. I want to know where. Where is their Zen? There. Okay. So you should, with your Winston right now, you should be on that Zen. Just to try and get him down quicker, because I think he just died in the end. Yeah, he does. He's dead. Okay. Right. All right. That point's invalid because the Zen was already dead. Now you're right. You're on monkey. You're on monkey. Monkey dies. Tracer's the next squishy, so that's probably the best of choices, even though she's the hardest to hit in the game. You're aware she's going to blink in. Nice, good positioning to get around that. Nice, not using a recall as well. That means you can re-engage a lot faster. Flank to get on some of the supports. This should be call for an engage with your tanks.
Going to contest mode. You need to wait for Mercy.
Recall was needed because you're about to die.
Focus Mercy.
Mercy's low still.
Got her.
Get the Zen, get the Zen. If you had a mic, you'd be calling on the Zen right now. Zen's dead, nice. Recall, nice. You're starting to understand recall before, without even knowing what I'm saying. That's unlucky for Mercy, it was quite a ballsy res. You've won the fight, doesn't matter. Monkey has to die though. Yeah. So, that entire engage was really good actually. You managed to get out of that Diva and Tracer 2v1 without using your recall, which meant you could re-engage faster. Don't be afraid to get up close with your pulse pistols, because actually it's bugging me because you've been using pulse bombs in less than ideal situations, I say, throughout. You seem to be focusing tanks a lot, but right here, that's a perfect opportunity to use it. I'll try and get in a cleaner frame. Yeah. Okay, so Mercy's over here. If you can get a pick on a Mercy, that'd be great. But if you just blink and pulse bomb him, that's a pick. I know he's low health, but you also have no ammo. You have 8 bullets out of 40. So don't, like, I know I said a minute ago don't throw it away, but at the same time, don't be afraid to use it to finish someone off, because that's not melee health. And that's going to heal back up because the Mercy's healing him. So getting that pulse bomb on him would have been a big pick there. But that's a very specific thing. I'm nitpicking at this point. That fight was quite good from you. Obviously, maybe a little bit closer engages and a little bit better tracking. But other than that, that fight was fine. And you did well to win it. And you got the Zen in the end. Yeah, okay, so you go around. Nice, you get a recall. Tracer ends up getting you. That's just unfortunate. Monkey pop. You drew Primal out in that fight as well, which is very good. Okay, so you're... I'm interested to see where you're going to stand. That's a good pick from Rome, actually. Spacey talking about the moles on Mercy's back. Lol. Okay, so... Can't see the kill feed right now. Alright, so your team's kind of popping off while this full screen's on. I can't see anything. But what I did see was you followed the Mercy. You understood where she was. Alright. I can't see your health. This is very hard to actually adapt because I can't actually see your health in there. But I'm assuming that there was I think I heard a Tracer behind you. So you recall because you were afraid the Tracer was going to one-clip you, which is fair enough. Actually, I just realized I can see your health here. I'm assuming you took damage from behind. Alright, so Tracer keeps chasing you. You should just drop back for a bit of healing. You're asking for it. No one's paying attention. Don't die to this. Right, popping Valk, let's engage. Nice, you're going around on the flank again. Go for pulse bomb. Oh, you pop Valk. That's actually, I don't think it was intentional, but you pop Valk. But yeah, don't be afraid to like get right up close to pulse bomb someone. It's a lot easier to pulse bomb someone when they're right in your face because there's almost no travel time, so you don't really have to pay attention to arc of the pulse bomb and where it's going to land. You force Valkyrie to get away from it, I believe, although it may have been a planned ult anyway. But I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one. Calculated. You're on Zen now. Oh, that's unfortunate. Also, something I've noticed in the last few fights as well, you don't have to blink after every reload. Because it seems like almost every reload, without fail, you've blinked here. And it really messes you up on this one in particular, this reload. So you end up on the Zen, but then right here when you reload, this is a better position to be at, this distance away, because where you end up, if you look where you end up,
Done one.
you end up too close to really track him well, whereas at a longer distance, it's a lot easier to track people. And I think playing your distances right is a really good way that I can see improvement from you. Knowing when to blink and knowing,
Mercy one.
even in situations like that where you're not necessarily. I'm gonna go over blinks actually right now. So basically, blinks are exactly the same as recalls. Do you need it, or will you? Is there like a mix between recalls and pulse bombs? In that, if you need it to get somewhere or to get out of a place, do it. If you think that the position you're moving to will give you more of a positional advantage, and if say offer a blink melee. That's what I'm thinking. Offer a blink melee. But I'd more think, rather than thinking, is this necessary, I'd more think, is this unnecessary for now? And then once you start to kind of get in the flow of knowing whether it's unnecessary or not, you think, why am I doing this? If it's for a valid reason, do it. If it's not for a valid reason, don't do it. But again, these are all things you have to think about unconsciously when playing as Tracer. You can't dedicate the mind that's already been dedicated to knowing where people are on the map to these things, because once you start thinking about it, you'll lose track of other things, like where is this Zenyatta, who do I need to be targeting, things like that. But yeah, these are all minor things, like, you're not exactly wasting blinks, like, to the point where you need them, but, like, that was a good blink, but you kind of moved back towards him, which I was a bit surprised about. Just play your distances. That's what I was saying by the last point, and then that point about blinks was just keep an eye on if you need it or not. You're now focusing on the targets a lot better as well, I've noticed.
Nice. Okay, good job, guys. Finally, we held the map.
Yeah, so towards the end of that, I'm just gonna let this run through while I talk. Towards the end of that, I really liked how you started to focus the targets that you were being called a lot better, which is the way that you're going to find a lot of value out of your Tracer. You're good at finishing off kills, but you're not good at really doing them by yourself, especially if you can't perfectly track someone like a GM Tracer, then you're not going to get as much value out of playing a solo style Tracer. And also, your tank's not going to get nearly as much value either, because your D.Va has to move away from the backline to get as much value. She's her backline's exposed. So, just try and communicate with your Winston player when you're playing Tracer about who you're going on and when you're engaging, so you can kind of get that burst down on a Zenyatta, and that pick will open up a fight for you immediately, and you'll immediately see more. You'll see more value out of your Tracer, basically. All right. So, what are they running? Alright, so you're contesting bridge here. This is good. Risky peek here. That's a risky peek from Rum.
They have a break with Hanzo.
Alright, so say I have a Hanzo, I wouldn't recommend peeking that at all. Just a tip for Rum. Again, I'll probably just tell her. But yeah, peeking against Hanzo's not good as well. Alright, this sorry. This really is something. So, Soldier is incredibly vulnerable when he's not behind a shield or if he's not on high ground. And with you playing dive tanks right now, you don't have that shield potential that you would have with a Reinhardt or an Orisa. So I would highly recommend that as soon as you win this fight, just I would have been up where Rum is on the bridge actually. Just because you can reign over the shield. And you can also safely put down damage aside from maybe the Hanzo. If I remember correctly, this Hanzo is incredible. But yeah. from here, you're not getting as much value because the shield is blocked. You're firing it straight on. Wow, nice pick. Yeah, your damage is getting. You're firing straight into a shield rather than like from above where you can maybe get an angle. Again, tracking. Just try and work on your tracking a little bit there. It's not bad, but I could definitely see that it's one of the few one of the areas I would see safer improvement. So again, you don't really want to be down here. You want to be up on this high ground here. It's not that risky because they're not running anything too mobile aside from the Hanzo who can get you from long range. But you'd be uncontested on that high ground right now. So just try and Rum has the right idea. So you should be playing around where Rum is, maybe a bit further along. Again, you're getting Zen consistently. Oh shit.
Going. Okay. You got it.
Alright, you're finally getting an idiot to take high ground. I believe this is the... yeah, okay. So, although you get like a fucking 3k with this, I don't think dropping down after the Hanzo was the right call. You do get a 3k. Yeah, okay. So, I think you would have got just as much value if you'd advised it maybe earlier, but from the high ground. Even if it's just for the zoning. Don't be afraid to do a zoning out either, but you would still have high ground advantage. You'd even have blue box advantage, which for soldier is the dream of high ground. Yeah. Once again, you seem to be playing your soldier like you would a McCree. You're playing a soldier like a Brigitte, which I don't know how I feel about that. You force out trans as well. That's good. As well comes out. Nice trans. Ryan's one. Should die.
Ryan low?
Nice. Okay, so you're starting to get it a bit better now. Although I really wish you were rather than here. I wish you were either up here or up here. Probably up here because this is a lot safer than that is. Although both of them work very well. So I would have preferred to see you on a better vantage point. Just think of what is the angle you're going to get above a shield. Is basically what you want to think about when picking spots. This one here is great for controlling this area, but all your damage is going to be blocked by this because you're on almost an even level. Whereas if you were playing up here, you would have better sight lines on the entire area, and you'd be shooting down over the shield. So the best thing you can do is try and get an angle around a shield when you're playing as Soldier or McCree or Widow or any hit scan. All the 3 hit scans I mentioned because they're the only hit scans. Unless you want to consider Tracer.
I'm gonna you shoot after point. Nice.
Alright, so straight away, I can show you exactly what I mean by that high ground being crucial here. If you're on that high ground, you can push straight onto this extra bit here. I will show you in Stat Banana as well. So right, so if you're playing this high ground here, and let's put Brig in here and just show you what I meant. So the Brig was there. If you're playing here and the point is capped, then you can push up to here while your team is pushing through this angle and also eventually through these doors. And you can just put 3 damage down onto the Brig there and basically kill her immediately, as well as anyone else who pushed up, which I think a Mercy did. So it's just ease of those angles that would open up for you if you were to say, if you were to take the high ground up here instead of that position back there, because instead you had to relocate yourself and you were back on the low ground after the fight was won, which is not where you want to be really.
I'm gonna die here, but you shoot. Oh, sorry, just.
Okay, so I want to see you taking a good position here.
I'll try and farm.
Right, that's a good position. Stay on there. Stay right there.
Nice. Going.
They're resing in.
Okay, so you're playing. What I'm seeing, and I've finally pinpointed what it is. You're transferring how you would kind of play Tracer into your soldier play. Which, while it gives you incredibly high potential to get picks and such, it doesn't exactly keep you safe. And what you've got here is yourself completely cut off from your team. Well, you're not cut off, but you're in the front line with 3 quite deadly targets in front of you. One of whom can eradicate you just by looking in your eyes.
It's fine, just push.
And it's not really where you want to be. Yep, and it happened. Exactly what I thought would happen happened. You could have just stayed on box where you were here. Because the Ryan's dropped back. The Ryan has dropped back to about here. So anything in front of this line you can kill, including these 2 when they try and push back, or at least put damage on them. So yeah, it's just, honestly, for your soldier, it's just tracking and positioning. Your Helix rocket usage is good. Your target selection tends to be good as well. I'll see how this progresses if this stays to be the case throughout. Because that's something that's consistently been an issue with every fight for me.
It's fine, just push.
That's an unlucky deeper bomb bubbled. Yep. Alright, so alright. Yeah, okay, take the high ground, please. Yes, take the high ground. Alright, nice. You're taking high ground. Don't jump down. Don't jump down.
Okay, reset. Careful with Hanzo. Nice. Okay, we can go.
Straight away, your tank should be pushing straight in here.
You got the mercy when she's there.
That's unlucky. Again, just tracking. At this point, you can take the bridge. Yes, nice. Okay, right. Now you have a clean start on the supports. That's unlucky. As long as you stay aware of the Hanzo, that shouldn't happen too often, as long as you stay aware of where the snipers are playing. The Hanzo was playing... Well, you can see right there, actually. He was playing right here. But he peeked around for a moment to this area, and that's why he got picked off. If he keeps playing there, or even pushes around, if you go to meet him, you actually have the advantage, because you have more consistent damage, whereas he has like more burst, one shot at a time damage. Unless he pops Storm Arrow, in which case you're dead. But, yeah. At this point, your Winston's kind of hopeless diving in. The Zen has a lot of armor. And it's more just cleanup for the enemy team at this point.
Hanzo ship behind you guys.
No. Reset.
I wouldn't recommend going back in. I'm sorry, I'm really tired right now. I would not recommend pushing back in yet. Not even peeking, honestly.
3 minutes left.
Hanzo low, Hanzo half.
I think they probably have
Hanzo
all
half
their
ship.
so
Try push.
maybe dry push.
I'm calling for a dry push.
Okay, try push.
Nice. The other high ground is more advantageous for you,
Sides.
I'd recommend.
I need yours.
Yeah, in future, when you're playing soldier and the payload's pushed past this, or when, sorry, the enemy team is holding, like, this area here, this high ground here is of almost no use to you. As you saw, you couldn't really get any angles, and you just got owned by the Hanzo. But from this high ground, you can push around, you can push on the bridge. You can even get on shuttle eventually, if you go all the way around. But yeah, just think about like which high ground you're going to take, and it's usually going to be this one. This one's more advantageous on point B. Just because of how you can basically access the entire map from this high ground.
Hey, who are we gonna dive? Okay, fall down. Fall left.
And that Hanzo just fucked you. Yeah, that Hanzo ripped you apart there. That's an unfortunate one. You called for a dry push, but you still invested the sights, actually. Interesting.
Diva, don't go over here.
Okay, everyone here.
Okay,
Yeah.
who are we gonna dive? Who are we gonna dive?
Let's try to Zen.
Prioritize Zen.
That call for who we're gonna dive is a good answer. Prioritize, but don't.
Hanzo one.
That's also die. Rhine dies. Okay. Brick can die here. Or chance to pops.
I need heals.
There's a good chance to visor now. Free visor.
I need heals.
Brick.
Build Brigitte. Guys, she's alone.
Brick low.
Like,
Brick with me.
You shouldn't have dropped down.
Low with me. Discorded. Brick half.
Alright, so if you're chasing a target, don't follow them physically. Follow them more... Try and follow them with your mouse rather than with your movement, because if you, you have high ground advantage there, so even if you don't get the Mercy, you can still, rain damage down, unless they're hiding in such an awkward position below the bridge. And even then, that zones them into such an easy place to get on them. and get, especially out of Winston, who does more damage to targets that are grouped up. If you zone them into that little area, the Winston can get damage on all 6 people. And in that situation, that'll build his ult a lot faster, which means he can possibly pop Primal to stay alive here, though it's unlikely because he only gets 32. But also just chunk down targets, and with D.Va also firing in, and then your attack visor as well, they're probably not going to stay in one place. So just try and hold high ground. Don't be afraid to hold high ground. It's a very... something I've been noticing a lot about your soldier play. You tend to not play on high ground as much as I would like to see you play it. But yeah, that's just something to keep in mind when you use visor. You don't always have to chase people with visor. You can stay on high ground, so it's much more valuable.
We got the sites. We need to use the sites. Zen is available.
I use the sites.
Nice.
That's a good call. When you have those infra sites, you need to be thinking, right, who are we going to go, where is everybody? And how are we going to get on people? And that is a very good call to say Zen is available. So that's basically saying let's dive on Zen, but we need to say where he is. That's not you, as I know, but it's just in general.
Brick Sova's tended.
Kill Brigitte, guys, focus her. Nice.
Brig dead, that's a good pick.
I need heals.
Wait.
Grab dragon.
We need friends.
Grab dragon. Lol.
Yeah. Kill them.
Mercy discarded card. Mercy discarded card.
Mercy no.
That's
Mercy
unlucky.
Mercy one.
Then.
Nice pick. Okay, so this is good. See, when you're in a high ground position, you have see how you had a view over the entire map there. So if you start to think maybe like this fight went very well for you, you got the pick on the Mercy, you put down a lot of consistent damage onto targets from this high ground position. So think of every fight like this. Like, look at how much value you're getting from the high ground. So you should just, again, you chunk that Brig down to 1. And again, stay on high ground, stay on high ground, stay on high ground. See, you're getting so much value out of this soldier once you start playing high ground. That fight went so much better for you on this hero just because you stayed on that high ground. You got so much value. So just try and keep in mind, if there is a high ground available, you should always take it. And don't take like a hyper aggressive high ground where you're going to die. But if there's a safe high ground where you can get a lot of value from, always take it. Always take it, because you're going to get so much more value firing over shields rather than into them. And firing down on targets, I find it a lot easier, just because you're more likely to headshots at a higher angle. And also they find that it's a lot harder to contest you, and they have to invest cooldowns to engage on you, which is another very important thing that I should probably go over with people when I talk to them. Basically, if you can draw out, this is for anyone who watches this, if you can be in a position where it takes resources to engage on you and trying to contest you, you've got value out of your pick. Let's say a Winston has to use like jump to get onto a Widow. Even if you die on the Widow, that Winston's out of the fight. And until that jump cooldown comes back online, or until the Widow is dead after the cooldown comes online, that's a 5v5 on point where you're with both tanks and a DPS compared to both DPS and one tank. So I would personally consider a main tank for a sniper a good trade. But yeah, that's just what you kind of want to think as well. Can I be engaged without using any resources here, or would they need to use, say, jump pack or boosters or defense matrix even just to engage on me? And if the answer to that is no, then you should probably find a new position because you're playing too far forward. But yeah, just think about if you need to invest resources to get to you, basically.
They have shit spawn. Brick.
Punish spawns. Nice. Brig should die.
Mercy.
Brick.
Nice pick on the Zen.
Brick half.
Nice, you have picks. That's good.
Going. Push back, guys, push.
Right, this point C is very difficult to play soldier on, so what I would say is if you don't immediately establish this high ground up here on the top right, I would just go back to Tracer, personally. Just because there's not much high ground for you to play on. You would be playing behind the shield constantly and not getting that much value, so I would recommend, in points like this, don't be afraid to swap off. Like, you're playing your soldier well, your positioning started to improve towards the end of that point. you're quite close to attack visor, but once you use attack visor, you should probably swap to tracer where you can get more value out of the pick. Just because there is a lack of high ground here that's really safe to access, and there's almost no high ground that will give you any form of advantage, aside from bridge, which, like I said, isn't safe.
Mercy one. Mercy one. Mercy one.
Play with them, Marcel.
Nice.
Play with them.
Pulling up.
Right, you should be falling behind your tanks. You are. That's good. But yeah, see what I mean? You're just now because of the incline, you're actually playing below the enemy, which means the enemy has a height advantage, which means that you're not even just firing into the shield, you're firing up at the shield. So this is really not a situation you want to be in, realistically. But yeah, this is just... You're about to get attack visor. I'm assuming it's going to be a throwaway one. There's not many places that you can really get a good value attack visor out of on this point.
Okay, wait for Jazz and then we walk. Be careful.
Okay, I'm there. I'm there.
They currently are missing a mercy, so any pick is permanent. That's a big shadow.
Rolled.
Okay, don't use those. No ults. No ults.
No ults.
Just reset.
Nice. Okay, good call for no
Just
ults.
die. Just die. Just die.
We used Valk into that.
Make sure you don't stagger.
Ali. Just someone push the card. Okay, can we
Get on that break.
break,
Breaking the bash. Should be the first call. Nice.
Push, 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 push.
Right, straight away, the second you secure this corner, you should be straight up those stairs onto the high ground. You'll be away for about 5 seconds, so also think about, can they do without my damage for 5 seconds? But you will have infinite more, this is just a tip for this point in particular. The second you can secure that corner, and you can safely, without your team dying, move up to the high ground, do it. Because you will get so much more value, and like I say, you will get so much value out of those, out of high ground. Especially as a hero like Soldier or McCree. You'll get so much value out of it.
I'm going trans on card, transing on card.
Keep running.
Send with me, okay, send.
Alright, that's a trade. You got the that's actually a very good attack visor considering the circumstances and the point. You got trance out for it. So that's both support ults layered. And you're currently winning the support ultimate race because you have a Valkyrie at 38. So you're kind of winning that.
Transing. Back up.
And actually you're going to start building trance before your Zen does. This is unlucky though. Ryan had shatter back and you got a big shatter. Yeah. You'd be lucky if you get rezzed here. Oh, you do, nice. You're not going to get much value here. You should probably just try and run around and stall.
I've primal.
Yeah, okay.
As long as
That's unlucky. I'm assuming this is the end of the point. Yeah, okay. So, basically, final tips in terms of what you can do. Basically, for Tracer, pulses, recalls, and blinks. Because you're using these two unnecessarily. And I feel like just with a little bit of work put in there on those two mechanics, you could easily iron those problems out, and honestly be demolishing people in Tracer. Because the rest of it, your actual positioning in Tracer is pretty good. But also just keep an eye and try and engage with your tanks, and you'll get a lot more value. For Soldier though, positioning, so and just tracking. Because your Helix usage, your Helix aim actually, your Helix aim is very good. I'm impressed with that. And also your knowledge of when to actually peek is also very good. And I'm very happy that you have those natural game senses. Because teaching someone to use a Helix rocket is one of the hardest things I've done in my life, and I don't really want to do it again. But healing status usage as well, great. Upsides to your play, like I say, you were good on identifying flanks, and towards the end of your Tracer round, you were very good at engaging on the targets with your tanks. With Soldier, again, towards the end of point B, you did a very good job of staying on that high ground and not like getting the urge to drop down onto people just to try and get that easier kill. And it worked. You got a lot more value on that last point. But yeah, I've been rambling on for about an hour now, and I don't know if you really want to hear my voice any longer. But I hope you got some form of value out of this, and I hope you can put these into practice in a scrim sometime soon, dude. I saw a lot, and I kind of want to work with you a bit more, honestly, because this is all stuff that's not the hardest to, like, it's not the hardest to build up once you start to dedicate practice towards it. Like, blinks, you can, like, I recommend just trying to start with, I would consciously think, do I need to blink here? And same with recalls and pulse bombs. Just remember what I said about if it gets a pick, if it draws out an ult, or if it puts down the damage to do one of these things. Just because both of these are equal, in my opinion. Like, if you force out self-destruct, that's an ult they can't use in a fight, and that puts you one ult up. And if you get a pick, you're a man up, and that's a 5v6, which we all know how they tend to turn out. But yeah, anyway. I hope you learned something, and I hope you can start identifying or start working on these problems as soon as possible, and in an upcoming scrim, hopefully. But yeah, yeah, see you, dude.